Knew that those bricks in that wall was very important. After all, Al Capone sent his henchmen over to kill 7
Don't bump my arm.
of Moran's gang in that garage. The St. Valentine's Day massacre. How neat! So I drove over there on one afternoon figuring I'm going to grab a brick. The building was coming down. Sure enough, there were plenty of bricks around. But back into the building was an old black hearse owned by an antique dealer. He used that hearse to haul around all his stuff. And part of his stuff was the fact that he had bought the wall to the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Made me feel bad, though. I grabbed one from the outside. Nobody will know the difference. All of a sudden, he closed the hearse and drove off. A young kid comes up to me who is a architect graduate from Northwestern University, which is just down the street. And he opens up the schematics to the building. He says, look at here. He says, you see where the red X's are on the floor? That's where the 7 bodies laid. He said, do you know that guy missed half the wall? He said, if you really want the real stuff, bring your car in. I had a 1967 Cougar. I loaded it up with about 50 of the real bricks against the wall. Beautiful. Some chipped, some with bullet holes. Mostly chipped. They used Tommy guns, 45 caliber, I think. And they didn't burrow holes in there. They made chips. The only burrowed holes were where the mason work was. I do have a couple of those. I didn't bring one tonight. So I put about 35, maybe 40 of those bricks in the car. I drove to the south side to a buddy's house of mine, and I put them in his old garage. And the reason I did, his house was so old on the south side, it had a three-tier garage. There were 3 garages in one, and it was so old you couldn't get a new car in there because you couldn't make the turn. So there was nothing in the garage. I put them in the garage and drove away. My buddy knew they were there, I knew they were there, and I drove away, and 35 years went by.
Ooh.
I got involved in things. I got jobs, did things, went racing, etc., etc., etc. 35 years later, I get a strange phone call from the History Channel, the cable History Channel, that says to me, don't you have some bricks that were from the wall of the St. Valentine's Day massacre? I said, yes, I do. He said, well, could we come and take a look at those bricks? I said, absolutely. I had 4 of them in my home with corks where they plugged the holes, chips, just beautiful St. Valentine's Day massacre wall chips. I said, I'll tell you what, I've even got 35 buried somewhere. So I went back to that house. It's 35 years later. The entire neighborhood had changed. So I go up to the building and knock on it. I said, who owns the building? This little old lady comes out. She's about 80 years old. She says, I own it. This is my property. What do you want here? I said, well, you got 35 of my bricks. She says, I have what? I said, back in your garage. Because I'd gone back there and peeked through the cracks, looked through the window. There they were still sitting. I said, you got 35 of my bricks. I'd like to get them back. I said, be honest with you. I said, it's just an old a thing about my parents. They built a house, and somehow those bricks got here because a friend of mine owned the building. Oh, all right, you can have it. I said, oh, by the way, I would bring a television crew with me. It's only a few people. How did I know that the History Channel, all of their crews have 22 people? There's 2 cameramen. There are lighting guys. There are mess boys, electricians. So on a Sunday morning, I trudged up to her house, and I said, we're ready to pull out the bricks. She says, who are all these people? I said, that's the television crew. She says, I think there's more to this than they were just your parents' bricks. I said, no. I said, that's it. They were their bricks. She says, no, I don't think I'm going to let you in my building. So one of the history people, one of the I guess you could call him a producer, came up, pulls $50 out of her pocket and says, will this get us in your garage? She looked at it, she said, it certainly will. She took the 50, put it in her pocket, and that garage door was open. I backed my car in there, put up the top. The guy says, now what story are you going to tell on television? Because it's a national deal. He says, you do have a story prepared, don't you? I didn't have any damn story prepared. All I had was a bunch of bricks. Well, I'm going to tell you what I did. up the trunk, they started rolling the cameras. And I turned to the camera and I said, this is a sad day for me. I'm loading 35 bricks that I'm going to destroy. They're haunted. You might want to ask me why they're haunted. Excuse me. I loaded another brick or two. I'm going to tell you in just a moment. I loaded another brick or two. Now this car's starting to sag. My story's starting to get weak. And I said, here's the story, and here's how I know that they're haunted. I said, I have 4 of these bricks at home. 35 years ago, I put 4 of these bricks in my home, under glass, never realizing how haunted they really were. 4 bricks from the wall of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. During this 35 years, I ended up in the hospital with 4 major surgeries. Think about that. In that same period of time, I had 4 major automobile accidents. Think about that. In that 35 years, I had 4 wives. Number 4 is sitting right there. Boy, did I have a story going. I said, that's why I'm getting rid of these bricks. They're haunted. I closed the thing. I said, I'm sorry. But the next time you see me, these bricks will be crushed to rubber. And I drove off. I got a 15-minute story on the History Channel. Have you got that video up there? There's the video. That's the whole story right there. And I'm going to auction that video off tonight. In addition to that, somebody's going to get one of the bricks. And you're going to get a certificate that hasn't got the bullshit that I gave you tonight. It's the true story. The true story. So here's what I want to do. I have auctioned off some of these bricks before. I'm not going to tell you how much money that I got for them because there's not enough of you here to pay the price. So we're going to keep it on the cheap.